And welcome back, finally, to another episode of Talking Toku, Boston and now Ferndale, Washington's only podcast about Godzilla, Gamera, Ultraman, and all their kaiju friends. I am your host, David Scrivani.
I'm your co-host, Brian Kershaw, even though I'm actually an equal host because I'm equally as important to the ecosystem of the show.
The ecosystem of the show, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
I make all the plans.
I don't know about that. But
Okay.
yeah, this is our first episode back since Brian's moved to Washington.
Welcome to season 2, episode 1.
Yeah, even though we never really established seasons as a part of the canon of this show, but we are now.
Season 2.
Yeah,
Surprise.
the
Welcome.
Brian on the other side of the country arc.
Welcome.
Yeah, hope you guys are excited. We got a good show for you today. We're gonna be talking.
I'm excited.
You're excited? Oh, that's good. I'm excited too, Brian. So we're gonna be talking. What are we gonna be talking about today, Brian?
Today we're going to be talking about Kaiju for Babies.
Okay,
AKA
I don't know if that's gonna
should-
be the actual episode title, but
AKA what you should show people who are new to the genre.
exactly. Like if someone has any, very, very light interest in checking things out, maybe you saw Godzilla King of the Monsters or Godzilla vs. Kong, and you were like, oh, that seems cool. I want to look more into this. This is
Hey, that seems cool. Do you want to see something good?
Yeah, exactly. So, this will be a couple things to really look into to see what the genre is really all about. So, this is one of the episodes I had in mind when I first had the concept of this podcast. So, it's good we're finally doing it. Hopefully, it'll be as good as I envisioned it to be way back then.
Probably will be.
Yeah. Well, before we
Let's
do
just
that,
screw it up.
we should go into the news. Now, Brian, now that you're not in Melrose anymore, we're actually collaborating on the news finally.
Oh, we are?
Well, yeah, it's all in the doc, is it not?
That's true.
Yeah,
That's
so
true.
I
So I can read stuff off.
you could again
Here.
leave don't look at the last one. That's going to be that surprise.
I won't. How about you do the first one?
Yeah, hold on. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we wait. Yeah, so if I start off and then we switch off, I'll take the last one and it'll be perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was mainly going to do the second one because it's actually something I care about.
None of this other stuff is what you care about, really?
Oh. Oh, no, the pin... Oh, all right, I get to cover the pinball thing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, good.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, well, first up in the news, Kaiju Masterclass is coming back. Last year, in the wake of G-Fest being canceled due to COVID-19, a bunch of online conventions popped up to take its place, most notably Kaiju Masterclass. And they just announced last week that Kaiju Masterclass II will be taking place. It will be taking the place of this year's canceled G-Fest. Organized by genre historians Steve Reifel and Ed Gajicheski, webmaster of AkiraUfukube.com Eric Hominick, composer John DeSantis, and Kaiju Transmissions hosts Kyle Bird and Matt Parmley, Kaiju Masterclass brings together a masterclass of guests from across the kaiju genre, including director Kazuki Omori, who directed Godzilla vs. Biollante and Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, as well as writing for, I want to say, Mechagodzilla 2 and Destroya, but I could be wrong about those. Suit maker Fuyuki Shinada, who did the suits for Godzilla vs. Biollante and Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, as well as a number of the Gamera Heisei trilogy. Illustrator William Stout, who's done artwork for Raiders of the Lost Ark and First Blood. He's going to be talking about the unmade 3D American Godzilla film that was supposed to be coming out in the 80s. Actress Linda Haynes, who was in Latitude Zero. Voice actress Tiffany Grant, who was dubbed for Gamera Guardian of the Universe, as well as Gamera 3. And, in continuing with our last couple episodes, she's the dub actress for Asuka in Neon Genesis Evangelion. Director Norman England, who directed the documentary Bringing Godzilla Down to Size, and The Idol, which I haven't seen. Midnight Eye co-founder Jasper Sharp, genre historian Kevin Derendorf, and author John LeMay, with more guests surely to come. I don't know if you paid attention to Kaiju Masterclass last year, Brian, but if you didn't, you missed out on some great panels, and I'm really happy that they're bringing it back this year.
I did indeed miss it out, but if it is archived, I'll watch it.
I'm sure it's archived on their YouTube channel somewhere.
Did they give a firm date that this is happening?
They did, and I forgot to write it down. So let me bring it up real quick. I'm sorry.
Bad host.
I am a bad host. Kaiju Masterclass 2 will be taking place November 5th through November 7th, 2021. So mark your calendars for some Kaiju Tokusatsu goodness. Maybe we'll even do a recap episode of the entire convention.
Yeah, I mean, that would be... It's just a free topic.
Exactly. So, yeah. We can cover all our favorite panels and all our favorite tidbits of things talked about. So, yeah.
Well, I'm excited for it. I'll pay attention this time.
You better.
I will.
You better.
I'll mark it on my calendar for real, I promise.
All right. Do you even have a calendar now that you've settled in?
Yes.
All right, good.
It's on my phone.
Okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
What else we got for news, Brian? Tell us all about.
More in the news. G-Kid's Neon Genesis Evangelion Blu-ray set finally has some slightly more affordable options. I actually did see this. I got emailed about it.
Oh, did you?
They emailed me nonstop about it.
Oh my god!
Again. It's very annoying. I'm never signing up for alerts ever again. The deluxe set features over 7 hours of bonus features, a 40-page book, 8 art cards, and the classic dub/subtitle track. The standard edition has over 5 hours of bonus features and does not include the classic dub/sub.
Which to me, I don't like that because, the classic version of Evangelion is what a lot of people grew up watching, and the fact that they're locking the original version behind a almost $200 paywall seems not great to me.
How about G-Kids just makes an intermediate version that's like a little bit more expensive?
Well, my good pal Howard Miller, who I co-host Doritos Connections and Mountain Dew with, he was telling me that G-Kids is kind of like the forerunner for anime Blu-ray releases, and they always upcharge. Like they'll sell half a season of My Hero Academia for $50.
That's disgusting.
It is disgusting. So part of me is not surprised that the Evangelion sets are so expensive, but still the whole classic sub-dub thing is really annoying. I feel like it's not necessarily alienating fans, but it's still it's super easy to just include that on the standard release, and I don't know why they aren't.
I got one word for you, Dave.
Money, capitalism. That's fair.
Money. There you go. Yeah. Okay. Well, I won't be buying that.
I might. I'm not going to buy it anytime soon, but it's not a limited release, so I'll probably get it at some point.
Are you talking about the deluxe set?
The deluxe set, yeah.
Deluxe set? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably won't buy it. I don't like contributing to that.
I mean, that's fair. But I have a weird...
Who knows? Maybe someone else will release it. I don't know.
I doubt it, but...
Yeah, probably not.
On a more melancholy note, screenwriter Wataru Mimura unfortunately passed away, I think last week, at the age of 67 due to multiple system atrophy. Mimura wrote or co-wrote a number of Godzilla films, including Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, Godzilla 2000 Millennium, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, and Godzilla Final Wars, as well as the 1994 film Orochi the Eight-Headed Dragon, which, of course, is based on the Yamato Takeru legend. His contributions to the genre are many, and yet again, we've unfortunately lost another legend. Regardless of what you think about some of those movies, Mechagodzilla 2, Megaguirus, and even Final Wars, but less so nowadays. You see, people still really like those films, and it's a huge loss that we've suffered, unfortunately. And I just watched Godzilla against Mechagodzilla a couple weeks ago, and I adored that movie. And it's
as far as I'm concerned, some of these movies, even if they're not the best, the world was still better off with them, and unfortunately,
yeah, exactly.
That's sad to hear.
Rest in peace, Wataru Mimura. You will be missed.
Rest in peace. Okay.
Back on some more upbeat news. What do we got
on a lighter note? I remember this particular news story you told me about.
I did
while we were on a call the other day.
Yeah, trying to figure out how we're doing this podcast.
Believe it or not, audience, Dave and I are indeed friends outside of this podcast.
I think that's at least the second time you've made that joke.
I'm going to keep making it.
Okay.
So, Stern Pinball Inc. has partnered with Toho to release a Godzilla pinball machine. It will be available in Pro, Premium, and Limited editions. From Stern, in this monster-packed pinball adventure, players become Godzilla. The evil aliens, the Exilians, use mind control rays to take control of the monsters King Ghidorah, Gigan, Megalon, Ibra, and Titanosaurus, my boy. The Exilians are demanding all of Earth's resources. Godzilla and its allies, Mothra Rodan and Anguirus, battle the Exilian invasion with the goal of conquering Mechagodzilla to become king of the monsters. I want one.
Yeah, Brian said he was going to buy the limited edition, which I think is like a little over $10,000.
It's like more money than I'll see. And I'll be paying it off for decades. Let's just say that.
I mean, if you have it, if you have the funds for it, I say go for it. But like, how often are you gonna use the pinball machine, Brian?
I'd have to use it every day.
Yeah, just to get your money's worth for it. Yeah,
my return on investment. Maybe I could make like an arcade.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you looked at the pictures or watched the video on the Godzilla YouTube channel. Did you?
I did.
It looks great. It looks really, really cool.
It looks really cool. Anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, go on the official Godzilla YouTube page. They have a showing of what it looks like. It looks really cool. Like, really high quality.
I keep seeing a lot of people complaining that Godzilla's bright green, and it's like, okay, but like,
stupid.
It is stupid. But like, consider that like arcades are dark. So you need to like have something to like catch people's eye, and having Godzilla be his normal charcoal gray color would not be the best choice for that. Yeah,
I mean, gamers only live in the dark, so
exactly.
It's gonna be dark. It's gonna be dark in the room, so Godzilla's gonna look dark.
Okay? Not only do they live in the dark, they like pretty colors.
Like what?
Gamers like pretty colors. It's like jingling keys in front of a baby.
That's true. You're right.
So you got to do something to catch their attention.
Okay. Yeah. So I really want this pinball machine.
Yeah.
Anyone who actually has the money to buy one, please invite me over.
And I know a couple, maybe like a month or two ago, I forgot to talk about this on the podcast, but there's an Ultraman pinball machine coming as well, which I think is already way sold out. But that's two big kaiju pinball machines. So
what do you think we're gonna get next? Do you think we're gonna get like a Gamera one?
Daiei themselves don't care about Gamera. We haven't had a Gamera movie since 2006, Brian.
Okay, well then, what would you put money on the next kaiju-related pinball machine being?
I don't know, because other than Godzilla and Ultraman, there's not enough kaiju stuff that's like super relevant.
Dang. Okay, that's a fair point.
Like, I love the genre, obviously, but like, I'm also a realist.
You want a Pacific Rim Uprising pinball
God,
machine?
No, I do not want a Pacific Rim Uprising pinball machine. I will pass
Hey, at
on
least
that.
it'll probably be way more fun than
the movie itself. I mean, yeah, you're probably right, honestly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past it. I mean, I do like a good pinball game.
Pinball's fun.
It is.
All right, move on to this this news story that you.
All right, this is gonna be very controversial.
Okay.
Like, more so than probably anything we've done in the past. Even like
controversial as in it's gonna make people be like, "Wow, those Talking Toku guys suck." Or
yeah, basically.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's run our careers into the ground.
Oh, I mean, I was at 10 a.m. this morning. I went to go for my my yearly physical checkup, and I was scrolling through Facebook in the waiting room, and I saw Jared post this, and he posted,
show.
Huh?
Friend of the show, Jared.
Yeah, friend of the show, Jared Xenophana Faust. And he posted it with the caption, "I fucking hate this." And I took one look and I just commented, "Well, can't wait to dig myself further into a hole for the podcast today." And he just goes, "Dig, dig, dig."
Hell yeah.
So this morning, and bear in mind, this may end up being one of the most batshit news stories we ever covered on this show. This morning, the United States Air Force announced Project Kaiju, which is an effort to protect large aerial tankers from being shot down by missiles. It has it has 9 departments, each of which is named for a giant monster. So we have Gamera, King Ghidorah, Mecha Rodan, which I don't really understand. That was never really a thing. Yeah, I don't know. Kumanga, Mothra, King Kong, Baragon, Colossus, and Godzilla. Now, Brian, tell me something. Do you see anything wrong with this picture?
All of it.
Because I see something very, very wrong.
Well, for one, Mecha Rodan doesn't exist.
Well, I'm not even
the...
talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that isn't it kind of the United States Air Force's fault that these monsters exist to begin with?
Yes.
Did no one like even stop to think about the potential negative connotations that this carries?
Especially Godzilla.
Yeah, like listen, so I'm not the one to call cultural appropriation for any of this stuff because for one, I think the argument's fucking stupid, and for another, most of the time it's 14-year-olds on Tumblr screaming about cultural appropriation when there's nothing actually being appropriated. It's just people sharing culture.
Yeah.
But this, I wouldn't say it's 100% cultural appropriation, but it is insensitive, to say the least.
Oh, no, it's absolutely insensitive.
Like, I mean...
That's, okay.
Yeah, it's... I mean, it's not. It wouldn't be a good look if it was any branch of the U.S. military, but because it's the Air Force specifically.
Also, for anyone who doesn't understand why the U.S. Air Force dropped the only 2 nuclear bombs that actually kill people, like,
I feel like if anyone listening to this would probably know that. I mean, that's basic U.S. history.
I mean, you never know.
I guess, yeah. But
just spelling it out for people, so people don't think that we're tiptoeing around the subject.
Yeah.
The U.S. Air Force is responsible for, well, the U.S. Air Force was the branch that carried out the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. As one should know, but you never know. And
now they're taking the names of giant monsters, Godzilla especially, that they essentially helped to create, and doing it as like a little cute thing, like, ooh, this is kaiju are cool. Look at us, we're naming ourselves after a kaiju, and it's like,
yeah, maybe
okay,
keep to your regular military call signs. Yeah, maybe.
I mean, like, on a very, very surface level thing, it is kind of neat, but like, if you look even an inch below the surface, it's like, oh, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Yeah, whoever came up with this idea, they just scream, I have no idea what the message is behind the movie.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no.
Because, the thing is, like, it's not a secret about what Godzilla stands
for. No, it's really not.
They spell it out in, like, every movie.
Mm-hmm.
So, it just, I don't know. It almost seems like it's purposefully insensitive, but I
don't think that's the case. I mean,
I don't think it is either. But but at this point, like the knowledge base on what these monsters stand for is so available
Mm-hmm.
that you can just do like a you know, like 10 minutes of research and you'll know what it's about and you'll be like, oh, that was a dumb idea.
Yeah. I don't
So
know.
yeah, I don't know.
And
Also, from a practical standpoint, this naming convention is going to confuse a lot of people in the Air Force.
what do you mean?
Like, you have all of these branches and they're all named these big names.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that the military and the branches use call signs is because they're easy to remember. But with this, you have a bunch of monsters who kind of sound similar.
Yeah, I wouldn't want. If I was in the Air Force, I wouldn't want to be like contacting King Ghidorah. Like that's kind of a mouthful for an Air Force call sign.
Yeah. So I don't know. Just on a base level practical standpoint, this just seems like an even dumber idea.
It's just a bad idea in general, I guess.
Yeah, maybe stop it. Just stop it.
I have a cousin in the Air Force. I'm gonna text him and be like, "Hey, Dante, what the fuck? Why didn't you do anything to stop this? You idiot! I know you probably have no power in the Air Force, but like,
why didn't you stop it?"
Yeah. But yeah. Man. So that's a thing now.
Oh boy. That was definitely worth the wait.
I'm glad. I'm glad it was.
That's like peak cringe right there.
Yeah, and it's cringe and it's cringe on the American government too, which is always the best kind of cringe.
Yeah, I really want to know whose idea this was, and I also want to know how big the board was that it had to go through to get approved.
I don't know. But I think that about wraps it for the news today.
Okay.
Should we move on to our next segment?
The r/Godzilla block?
Yeah. Which we debuted last episode for the first time.
That was my brain blast. I was like, we need to do an r/Godzilla.
We brought back Brian's big brain moment.
Yep, Brian's. Yeah, exactly.
So this week it was my choice of post, and I for the millionth fucking time I saw people on r/Godzilla asking, why hasn't Shin Godzilla 2 happened yet? I want a Shin Godzilla 2. And for anyone who's seen Shin Godzilla, it does end on a pretty interesting cliffhanger. Spoiler alert. Godzilla is frozen. So Godzilla goes through a bunch of rapid evolutions throughout the movie, and at the very end, after they freeze Godzilla, the film ends on a shot of Godzilla's tail. There's all these weird Godzilla humanoids like splitting off from his tail. So it's like, oh, they stopped him at the very, very last second, and like, yeah, that's a cool cliffhanger. Maybe that could be a cool route to go for a sequel, but like, it works better as a standalone. I don't think, for one thing, Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, who directed Shin Godzilla, neither of them really want to do a sequel. And I just think anyone, even if they were to do a sequel, I think it would lessen the impact of the original Shin Godzilla. And
I for sure think it would lessen the impact of the final shot. That final shot is one of my favorite final shots from any movie. Yeah,
it's chilling, and I understand wanting to see, going somewhere with that, but I can't envision a way that it would still be thematically interesting instead of just like a kind of generic creature feature,
I think it would lessen the impact that movie had. For sure.
Yeah.
And I think that like, people had like a lot of issues with Shin Godzilla because of like how it was more of like a political satire, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
Or not really a satire, but it was like a political commentary.
Yeah.
And like, I found the movie interesting because it was that, but I feel like having another movie based in the same universe, they're gonna have to move on to something other than, they're not that they have to, but either they'd stay with political commentary or kind of just go off in a different direction. I just think either way, you're gonna have people who don't like it, or you're gonna have people who are just like, this isn't giving commentary that I, on real world stuff that that I liked from the first movie. I don't know. I just think it's a lose scenario if they do make a sequel.
Yeah, and I mean, we covered.
It doesn't make sense either. I don't know what they would do.
I don't know either. What would it just be like? The humanoid Godzilla is kind of wreaking havoc. I feel like that would just devolve into basically being aliens.
Yeah, like this is. I said this about when we talked about the Evangelion rebuild films. It's like, I don't know how you would even end a storyline like this.
Yeah.
Like the only end to Shin Godzilla is everyone fucking dies, because Shin Godzilla is so OP that the only way that they could beat him was just freeze him.
Yeah, and even they implied in the movie, like, even that's a temporary solution. Like, he'll probably wake up in however long, anyways.
Yeah.
And I mean,
so,
we talked about this on the episode we did for Godzilla Singular Point. I want to see more different things. Like, I think a Shin Godzilla sequel would just be kind of going through the motions again. Like, I would rather see new and different, unique ideas. And so far, we've been, Monsterverse aside, kind of, we've been getting that. And I would much prefer to see them do something else. And I don't know if they still have plans to do that, like Godzilla cinematic universe that they were talking about like 5 or 6 years ago, or however long it was. But yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on this. I forgot what I think it was on the Singular Point episode. But right now, as a Godzilla fan or a Kaiju fan, like, you have a lot to watch.
Yeah, exactly.
And enjoy. And the Monsterverse is there for like mass appeal. Like, it has everything that's just like very simple. Like, it's like the old like, Heisei Godzilla movies. Like, you just watch it and enjoy it. It's got monster fights. And then you have the more like thought-provoking new ideas of, I want to say Shin Godzilla, but Shin Godzilla does borrow a lot from other movies, sort of. But it has newer stuff. And then you have Singular Point, which is so off from what we know that it's very entertaining.
Yeah.
We talked about that on our episode on Singular Point. So I just think that by going back and making sequels to Shin Godzilla, it's just going to bring us back to a point of, oh my God, I'm so tired of seeing sequels. Please make something new.
Yeah.
We're already on a pretty good stride of getting new stuff.
We are.
There's still good stuff for people who like the sequel formula in the Monsterverse. I don't see why they would stop making those, because they performed relatively well.
Yeah, I mean, Godzilla vs. Kong, regardless of any of your opinion on it, like, it made a shitload of money, and I think it was like the highest grossing movie since the pandemic started, which is incredible.
Yeah, and like, Dave, you and I, we enjoyed watching it like once or twice.
Yeah,
but we're not going to really watch it again. So they're good movies, like, they're fun. But as lifelong Kaiju fans at this point, we just want something with more substance.
Yeah, and as it stands right now, like, we don't actually have any upcoming Godzilla media at all. Like, there's been no sequel to Godzilla vs. Kong announced. There's no season 2 for Singular Point announced yet. So yeah, at the moment we have no Godzilla media to look forward to. But
I do think it's appropriate to assume that there is definitely stuff in pre-production.
Oh, absolutely. We just haven't heard about it yet, I'm sure.
Yeah, but that, I mean, we always get these lulls in between these, because the last couple of years it's just been release after release after release.
Yeah, I mean, like, after Godzilla Final Wars, there was a 10-year gap between Godzilla media, between Final Wars and the 2014 Godzilla.
There's for sure stuff coming, and I'm still excited about it. But
yeah,
for people who want sequels to movies, there's a bajillion Godzilla sequels. They're always going to be there. Just go watch them. That's it.
That's it. Yeah,
That's it.
I think we've said our piece. But everyone who's please stop asking for a Shin Godzilla sequel.
Hideaki Anno doesn't want to make it.
Yeah, let him do what he wants to do. You know, he's finished Evangelion finally, and he wants.
That man has finished up his very depressing lifelong project.
Yeah,
of finishing Evangelion. Let him rest, please.
Let him do other stuff. He's doing Ultraman. He's doing Kamen Rider. Let him just make other weird things than in Godzilla.
He looks exhausted.
He does.
Every picture I see of him, he just looks like he needs to take a nap.
Yeah. And I honestly, I don't blame him.
Pounding him. Stop it. Let the man rest.
All right. Well, I think that's it for our /Godzilla sucks segment. Yes. Shall we move on to our main event?
We should. This is as I put it, or as actually you put it.
I did put it like this in the document in the Google Doc.
Yeah, you called it Kaiju for babies.
Yeah.
So Dave's calling you all babies.
I am. I guess I am. No. I'm calling people who haven't gotten into the genre yet babies. I'm not calling everyone babies.
So Dave is calling your friends babies.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So, well, before we move on to our personal picks, we did want to talk about the original Godzilla first.
Yes. So the original, a lot of people, myself included, like to start franchises from the very, very beginning. When I show people Star Wars, I tend to show them in, release order. So I start with the original trilogy and the prequels, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Ultraman, that's how I've been doing it for the most part. I kind of got off that. I'm still doing it chronologically, but whatever. Godzilla is a franchise that I feel doesn't really lend itself to that. Because for the first film, it's kind of an entirely different thing than the rest of the franchise ended up becoming. Mm-hmm. And that is kind of because, it wasn't made with any sequels in mind. It was made as a horror movie that, reflected the horrors of nuclear weapons. And, it's like I said, it's a horror movie, and it did. The franchise quickly got away from that tone, aside from like a couple exceptions here and there, like the Return of Godzilla and Shin Godzilla and stuff like that. So for that reason, I personally wouldn't recommend it for like someone's first Godzilla film.
I'd say definitely show them down the line, but if you want to get them into it, Godzilla 54 is a little bit of an I dare say abrasive to someone who's not familiar. It is haunting. It's a haunting movie.
It is.
It may not leave. And also because it is so different, it's not necessarily a great representation of what the rest of the series is like.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you and I are in agreement that everyone should see the movie because it's very important.
Yeah, no, I am firm in my belief that everyone, even if you don't have any interest in Godzilla whatsoever, like any self-respecting film buff should see the original Godzilla. Or again, not even film buffs, just anyone, because the original Godzilla is so historically and culturally important. I think it's a movie that everyone should see. Like, you see all those lists like, 1001 movies you should see before you die. I absolutely think Godzilla should be included on those lists.
Yeah, and also I would say, you should definitely take the chance to get it because, I mean, the original version of it only became available relatively recently.
2004 they finally released for its 50th anniversary,
which is criminal in my eyes. Thanks, U.S. government, for that. So yeah, I think that everyone who cares about film at least a little bit and who wants to immerse themselves in not necessarily the genre, but I mean just immerse themselves in topics that are not necessarily comfortable. Godzilla's, the original Godzilla is fantastic to watch. It's very haunting. probably not going to be able to watch it a whole lot, but it is very significant with film and in the Japanese consciousness. And I think it should be, I think if we're going to carry on as a species, we need to learn these lessons. And I think that Godzilla is a great way to learn them through film.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to learn our lessons through bombing each other and then realizing that it's a terrible idea. We can just portray it in film and get the same idea.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yes, Godzilla, while being the, personally my favorite in the series, not a good idea to show that right off to someone. I'd say show it to them if they are like all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they've seen a bunch of movies and they know they like it, and you're like, all right, let me throw you in a time machine. We're going to go back and watch how it started.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably what we're getting at here.
Yeah.
Unless this person is like a film buff, as you say, and they want to like go in.
Yeah. Like one of my friends, he's I don't think he's a critic, but he is like a journalist for some web movie news site. He watched the MonsterVerse stuff and he liked him, but then I think when HBO Max dropped most of the Showa films on there, he went in. I don't know if he continued through them, but I know he did go and watch the original, and he's like, "This is legitimately incredible." So, yeah, and he's very, very not super interested in the franchise, but the fact that he went and watched it and absolutely loved it, that's a good sign, Yeah.
I think that for people who didn't like the MonsterVerse movies because they were just too like Michael Bay-y, just go watch the originals. They're good.
So I'm curious. This just kind of popped into my head. Where would you rank Godzilla King of the Monsters, like the American version of this film? Like, would you say that's a better starting point than the Japanese version?
No, because I don't think that that's a necessarily good representation of what the series is either.
Mm.
And I think that edit, whenever I think about it, I just think it's just whitewashing the movie. I don't know. I don't think it's. I hate that cut because it just takes away everything that it takes away all the substance from the movie, and I think that that's really, really negative. So I no matter how quote unquote good it is in terms of like pure like filmmaking, I don't even think it's good as film personally, but I still think that just due to it taking out all the substance and just bringing it down to a very base form, I think that I hate it. I probably hate it as much as the new King of the Monsters.
Interesting. I wouldn't recommend it as an entry point, but like, I actually really like the original King of the Monsters. I think it's, as a typical 50s B movie, I think it works really, really well. Like, I think I watched it for the first time in years, like maybe last year, and I'm like, wow, this kind of rocks. Not gonna lie. And I mean, Raymond Burr, who is the American actor that they not so subtly inserted into the Japanese cut.
Very not subtle, yeah.
They actually brought him back for Godzilla 1985, which was the American cut of Return to Godzilla. And the American studio, I can't remember the name of the studio who did it, but they wanted to kind of, because it's a Godzilla movie, they kind of wanted to be a little lighthearted and goofy, and Burr was like, no, this is like a serious topic. I want to play this character like seriously. So, I mean, the fact that he had so much respect for it after doing the movie that didn't really have a lot of substance, I respect the hell out of him for that.
Yeah.
But
that's respectable, but I still personally, I feel like it was. I just King of the Monsters, the American release. I remember that was like the first version that I watched of the original movie.
It was the first version most people watched.
Yeah, and I think at the time I probably liked it, but like now knowing all that I do, and I watched it again. I watched it again with I think I watched it with my mom not that long ago, maybe like 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, it just feels like it was robbed.
Mm.
It was very hollow. And I'm just like, this is not, like all of, all of the parts in the movie that matter to me, they were just gone. Like they were all ripped out.
Right.
All the thematic, all the themes and all that and the tone, it was just ripped out and replaced with something that just didn't belong in my eyes. I don't know. That's just my opinion. People can like it if they want.
Yeah.
Obviously. I'm not the god of movies, but yeah.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
All right. Well,
Ryan's corner.
All right. Well, after now that that's wrapped, let's move on to our actual picks for getting into the kaiju tokusatsu genre. Do you want me to go first, Brian, or do you want you to go first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay.
Because you've got it more fleshed out than I do.
I mean, not really, but
a little bit more fleshed out.
Slightly.
Full transparency to the audience. 2 days ago, we were on a Discord call for like 2 hours typing this out.
I mean, a good chunk of that.
We went down a rabbit hole of looking up what came out in the year 2007, 2008.
For video games, not for any kaiju-related stuff. It was just for video games.
But we got there because of something kaiju-related. It's a movie called D-War.
Yeah.
Dragon Wars.
I don't know how we got to video games from that, though.
Because I said, 2007, what a banger year. What else came out in 2007?
Oh, and I said Guitar Hero 3, and then I was like, what else? What other video games came out in 2007?
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Well, coming to you soon, the next podcast episode is going to be on Dragon Wars.
Oh my fucking god.
Look out for it.
Part of me would not mind rewatching Dragon Wars, but I feel like the other part of me would be like, this is fucking awful.
We'll just have to get a couple drinks.
Yeah, that's true. We'll see. We'll see.
Maybe we can do. Maybe if there's enough people who subscribe to our Patreon, we can get a watch party.
Well, if they ever get that sequel off the ground, maybe we'll have to do a rewatch and do an.
Well, if we get it done. Well, what if we get it done now, and then it'll be the first thing that pops up when people look for like a review of the original when the sequel gets announced.
Oh man, maybe. We'll get a bunch of listeners because we fucking talked about D-War. Jesus Christ!
Enough about D-War. Go on to your
All right, so I think we should do this like switching off. Like I'll do one, then you'll do one, et cetera, et cetera. That way I'm not like talking for 40 minutes by myself.
Okay.
So for my first pick, I tried to like go across different franchises here. So for my first pick, I went with something I mentioned earlier in the episode, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, directed by Masaki Tezuka, came out in 2002, so it's fairly recent. It's got some pretty, because a lot of people, unfortunately, like they tend not to watch movies because they're too old, which is fucking bullshit, and I absolutely hate that kind of thought process, but.
It's too old. It's gross and icky.
Yeah, I knew someone who she refused to watch the Evil Dead movies because they were too old.
That's a shame.
It is a shame, and I'm like, well,
especially because those movies aged very well.
They did. They are some of my favorites, and she's like, no, they're too old, and I don't want to watch it. I'm like, you fucking bitch.
Wow. Oh, you're gonna have to cut that.
I'm not in speaking terms with them anymore. I don't care. Anyways, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Personally, I think it's a really great introduction to both those characters. I think that version of Mechagodzilla, Kiryu, is one of the most interesting versions of that character. Spoiler alert.
Favorite.
Yeah, spoiler alert. It's they dug up the bones of the original 1954 Godzilla and built a giant robot mech around it. And I think that's a really cool idea. And they actually do something with that when Kiryu and Godzilla first face off. Godzilla roars and it triggers, the genetic memory of the original Godzilla, and he goes on a Rampage, and it's fucking awesome. And
I love the scene where he goes through the building.
Yeah, he just casually walks through it.
Just walks through it. Yeah, that's one of my favorite moments from that movie.
I think Kiryu's Berserk Rampage is one of the coolest scenes in that movie.
Yeah, for sure.
And Godzilla's characterization in that is, for someone who may have watched Godzilla vs. Kong, I think it's very similar characterization in that, because in Godzilla vs. Kong, Godzilla's kind of a bastard in that. And I feel like that's much the same as it is against Mechagodzilla. Like in Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, he's like firmly not a good guy. He's more of that like the force of nature kind of thing that they went for in 2014, but he's less caring about the world. He just wants to fuck Japan up because they did some bad things. But yeah, I think it's because that's really at the core of a lot of versions of Godzilla in terms of personality and characterization. And I feel like that suit, especially the 2002 to 2003 Godzilla suit, is one of the, not only one of the best looking, but also one of the most expressive suits as well.
Yes.
I mean, there's
big eyes.
You got the big eyes. He's got that. Like I said, there's that connection to the original film with the skeleton of the original Godzilla. And I think, personally, it's got legitimately some of the finest miniature work and effects, like, probably since Eiji Tsuburaya was alive, Like,
I agree, because I actually did watch Godzilla against Mechagodzilla relatively recently.
Yeah.
Back home. And I remember thinking to myself, wow, those miniatures look really good.
Yeah, the final battle in Tokyo is like it's so good. It like everything.
For one, the when Mechagodzilla flies into that fight, that's hype as hell.
Yes.
But yeah, that whole fight, I love it. It's so good.
Yeah. And you know what the cool part is?
What?
I'm gonna kind of be cheeky here. It has a strong female character.
It does.
And this is actually one of the films I bring up when people are like, "Oh, no one goes to watch Godzilla for the human characters," and it's like, well, actually, this one has like a really, really, really solid character.
Yeah. She gets really fucked up at the beginning of the movie.
She does.
She like works herself back up. She literally has a training montage.
She does.
Where she's like jogging and doing push-ups and shit. It's awesome.
I mean, and the whole thing is that Akane, that's her name. She has PTSD because I think it was like 1999. She got too cocky in fighting Godzilla, and she got like half her squad killed, and that's why she's stuck at a desk job. She was like
isn't she like a pilot, or I don't know, was she like a gunner for one of the masers?
She was, and she shot the maser at Godzilla's eye, and that caused him to be like, "Oh, ow, that hurt. Have some atomic breath."
He was like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, and then the atomic breath caused an avalanche, and the truck fell down, and he just stepped on the truck and killed like 5 people.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then
it's a very horrifying thing to watch.
It is, and again, she, like you said, she builds herself up and earns the respect of the rest of her squad mates, and it's a really, really well thought out character arc. I honestly think that this movie has some of the most interesting characters in the franchise overall.
Yeah, that's going to be a when it comes to the Godzilla movies that are our picks, it's a running theme with them.
Mm-hmm.
They have good characters.
They do, and I didn't put it on there, but I would definitely suggest watching the sequel as well, Godzilla Tokyo SOS, because I think that one's a little better than Against Mechagodzilla, but it's a sequel, so it doesn't really work as a standalone, so that's why I went with Against Mechagodzilla.
Well, if you like Mothra, there's a lot of Mothra in Godzilla Tokyo.
There is, and I think it's the best Mothra design.
Yeah, There's a whole lot of Mothras.
There is.
Ugh.
And it's also some of the best music as well since Akira Ifukube passed away. I think Michiru Oshima is, compared to some of the other Godzilla composers, I think her work is dreadfully underrated. I mean,
got to hear some of it live.
we did. You know, we at G-Fest in 2019, there was the Kaiju Crescendo concert, which had Michiru Oshima conducting her own music, which I think is the first time she'd ever done that live in a live setting. She had never conducted her own music in a concert before.
She did a great job.
She did. And you know, her Godzilla theme, I think at this point is like super iconic to the point where, you know, when she first came out and they started playing that, the entire audience was doing like the Queen "We Will Rock You" thing, where they stomped along to the beat of the song. And it's incredible,
that.
yeah. And then, you know, Eric Hominick came out later in the show, and he was like, "Oh, you guys kind of already did this, but you ever heard 'We Will Rock You' by Queen? Let's do that." And it was really funny. And then I think after the show, I ran into John DeSantis, who is the other organizer of the concert, and he's like, "Yeah, we really weren't expecting people to start off with that, but we just kind of ran with it." So
that's incredible.
Yeah. I think
I was there.
Yeah,
for that.
you went up to bed. It was me and a couple other people. We went to Denny's, and then when we got back to the hotel, I ran into.
Of course.
Yeah, we ran into John, and that's how I found out that Michiru was going to be at the convention the next day. So
that's incredible.
But yeah,
that was a good time.
It was. But yeah, Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, it's pretty great all around. You know.
Yeah.
Great characters, pretty solid story, great effects, great music. Just real good. So that's my first pick.
Your first pick. All right, so my first pick is a Godzilla movie that came out around the same time with less good effects, but still good. I would show Godzilla 2000, but specifically the American version, because the Japanese version kind of sucks a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
It's probably the only instance where the American version improves on the Japanese version.
Yeah.
I've seen the Japanese version maybe once, and it was compared to the American cut, which I've seen multiple times, it's paced terribly.
Yes.
And it's the sound mixing is weird. Like there's no music at some points where there feels like there should be music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not great.
I remember when we got the Japanese version finally, and I watched it and I was like, wow, we were not missing much.
Yeah, we were so excited to finally see the Japanese cut, and we were like, oh okay.
Oh, this is kind of bad.
This is kind of lame.
Yeah, but anyways. I personally love Godzilla 2000. I think it is a great representation of the rest of the series. Because I think how I wrote it when I wrote this, I said this iteration of Godzilla is like pretty bog standard. Like,
yeah,
he's just kind of Godzilla. Like, there's nothing new about him. There's nothing really super like out there in the story.
Mm-hmm.
So you know. It's just, you know, you follow Godzilla, the characters are following him, and whatever. We're not following him, but they're kind of just, you know, there is an opposition monster, Orga, and then there's Godzilla, and they just kind of do their own thing, and they come later at the end of the movie and they fight. That's how most Godzilla movies work. So it's pretty easy to understand, and it's basically like that in every other.
Yeah, it is a very bare bones film, and I think that's why it might be a good starting point. I've kind of grown lukewarm on it recently. I think it's fine.
Wow.
There are things I like about it. I like Orga a lot. I wish we saw more of him in other things, but unfortunately that's not the case. But yeah, it's a bare bones film, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know,
it's a good starter. I think.
Yeah, and I
It
think
opens the door for stuff.
and I think that's what the case for a lot of fans of our age, because it was really the first proper Godzilla film since 1985 that got a widespread release in the United States. It actually got theatrical distribution, which for a foreign film is pretty out there, especially in the year 2000. Nowadays it's pretty fairly common, but not so much back then. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But
well, let me talk about my favorite thing about this movie.
Talk about
why
it, Brian.
I recommend it.
Let me hear it.
So, personally, I adore the characters in this movie. I think that the three main characters, Yuji, Io, and Yuki, are. I think the three of them, they work so well together. I think that the scenes of them in the car, just like specifically the one scene where Yuki has to pay the toll fare or whatever when they're driving to chase down Godzilla.
Yeah,
I think that that's great, and just the scenes with all of them, they're really good. I think they're very well written characters and just really easy to care about.
Yeah, absolutely.
None of them are too interesting, I guess. I mean, Yuji and Io, they both run like their Godzilla.
It's the Godzilla Prediction Network. I believe it's called.
Network. So think of it like Storm Chasers,
but with Godzilla.
They're Godzilla chasers, and it's like a family-run thing. There's like, it's just really charming. I really like the dynamic between them.
Yeah.
And then Yuki is like she's like a photographer who works for like a newspaper, and she's trying to make it big. And so she's just tagging along with them, and like doing taking pictures and doing some research, and then they get who's the big government dude,
Katagiri.
Yeah, Mitsuo Katagiri. He's like this big government guy, and he's like super serious. He's like, I'm gonna take down Godzilla. We're gonna kill him.
All right, hold on. You got to mention the quote, Brian.
I do. I'm getting there.
Okay. All right.
And then Yuji and Mitsuo, and then the other scientist, Shiro.
That's the actor's name, Shiro Sano.
No. I'm looking at it. The cast: Shiro Sano as Shiro Miyazaki.
Well, the thing is with Japanese, they usually refer to him by the last name, so it's Miyazaki. Rather.
Miyazaki, Shinoda, and Katagiri. Okay, there you go. They all have a history. They all used to work together, and now Shinoda's you guys are trying to kill him, trying to learn from him, and they do with Godzilla's cells, and whatever. But I'm not going to talk about the plot because I think that it's a fun watch, and I don't want to spoil it for people. But I just think that the characters, it's a relatively small cast, and I really like everyone in it. There's not a weak link in the characters, and all of their interactions are very fun to watch. There's been times in this series where they cut back to the people, and it's just a snooze fest because they're not doing anything interesting. But the best Godzilla movies have people that are interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Or at least very easy to care about, and I care about what's going on.
Unfortunately, that it does kind of devolve into that at near the end with Godzilla and Orga fighting, because they have the rooftop syndrome where the human characters are just on a rooftop watching things unfold and really not doing anything, which was a problem with a lot of Godzilla films.
That's the only weak scene in this movie, for me at least, is at the end with them kind of monologuing on the roof. It's just not very interesting. The rest of the movie
for as good as a movie like Mothra vs. Godzilla is, that's what happens in the film.
About that rooftop scene.
Oh boy. Oh, hold on. I think we're talking about a different quote here.
There is one of my favorite moments, which Dave and I have quoted.
Brian, I think we might be talking about different quotes
Katagiri
here.
Gets yeeted off the roof by Godzilla, and Shinoda screams, "Katagiri!" It's great. Oh, and then Katagiri yells Godzilla. Yeah, but it's great.
Brian, I think we were talking about different quotes when I brought that up.
What?
Yeah.
Which one were you talking about?
I was talking about the one where they're talking about the missiles.
Oh my god, I forgot
it's
about that.
It's the best quote in the movie where they're talking about how good the missiles are, and Katagiri goes, he goes, those missiles will go through Godzilla like crap through a goose, which I don't know what that means, but whoever the dubbing actor for Katagiri was, he sold the fuck out of that line.
I actually now figured it out.
Okay.
They're just talking about how fast gooses crap.
Okay, is that actually a thing? Do geese?
Yeah.
Okay.
Geese eat and their digestive system's really fast, so they poop really fast.
All right. Who wrote that line? That's what I want to know.
Okay, so that's my first pick. My first pick is Godzilla 2000. Got some really memorable lines. I think it looks really good. The only downside to it personally is that some of the effects are very dated. There's some really bad green screen.
It's not it's less the green screen, it's the CGI.
Yeah, CGI.
Which is weird because if you watch a movie like Gamera 3, Revenge of Iris, which came out the same year, the CG in that looked pretty solid.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened with Toho and Godzilla because it ain't great. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's Brian's first pick.
Yeah, it's mine. You want to move on to your second?
My second pick is the 1966 Ultraman. We covered Ultra Q, the predecessor, on the show a couple weeks ago, and it's a good show. You should watch it, right, Brian? You agree?
Yes.
Good show.
Definitely,
good show.
Except for the Baron Spider episode. Yeah.
You should go listen to our episode on if you want to hear why Brian doesn't want to talk about the Baron Spider episode.
Yeah, please go listen to it.
Yeah. So while Ultra Q is kind of a more Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, horror tinged show, Ultraman is more in line with the Godzilla films of that era, the mid to late 60s. So it's kind of upbeat. It's a little dark at times, and those darker episodes are some of my favorites. I have some listed here, such as mostly the really dark episode is My Home is Earth. Which, spoilers, I'm going to talk about spoilers. I don't know, Brian didn't really talk about spoilers for Godzilla 2000, but I'm going mostly all in. My Home is Earth involves an astronaut coming back to Earth after being lost in space for however many years, and he's turned into a giant monster, and the main characters know him. Like they were friends, and they have to deal with, like, killing their friend.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it's a wild episode, but it is definitely one of the best of Ultraman's episodes. But yeah, my favorite episodes of Ultraman are that, Terrifying Cosmic Rays, and The Monster Graveyard, all of which were directed by one man, Akio Soji, who I've waxed poetic about, I think on the Ultra Q episode, because I talked about the Ultra Q movie that he did in the 90s, which we still need to watch, Brian.
Yes.
But really, there's no, like, one solid episode to show someone for Ultraman. I mean, maybe the premiere. Ultra, I don't know what the episode's called. It's Ultra something number 1. I don't know what that something is, though. I should, because I'm a Kaiju fan, man, but I don't. I'm sorry. I'm a fake Ultraman fan, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it introduces the kind of hero subgenre of kaiju media, which is nowadays it's kind of just Ultraman taking up that vacuum. But back when Ultraman first premiered back in the late 60s, early 70s, there were a bunch of copycats, namely Zone Fighter from Toho, which actually had regular cameos from Godzilla. As well as Gigan and King Ghidorah. I've never actually seen those episodes, but I've never actually seen anything from Zone Fighter, honestly. But hey, they exist.
more stuff to watch when it gets a release, maybe.
I don't know if it'll ever get a release. I think I have a link to a Google Drive with fan subbed episodes on it. Maybe I'll watch that soon. Who knows?
Maybe we could do an episode on it.
We could do an episode on Zelda.
An obscure episode.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean there's again, it spawned a couple different things, you know, as well as Zone Fighter. There's Fireman and Mirror Man, which I don't know about Fireman, but I know Mirror Man was also maybe, but Mirror Man was also from Tsuburaya Productions. So it's not exactly a copycat. It's just them trying to recapture that success they had with Ultraman. But yeah, no, I mean Ultraman. It's got. I think it's a great entry point into like the weirder side of the kaiju genre, because you start to get some of the weirder designs in terms of kaiju. You get Pigmon, who, you know, we talked about on Ultra Q because it was a recycled suit from Garamon from that episode, from the Garadama episode. But you also get huh?
Such a weird design.
Yeah, but then you get like some of the you know, the more well-known Ultra Kaiju. I mean, I guess Pigmon's pretty well-known, but like stuff like Baltan, like that's an alien. It's a really striking design. It's like it's almost this kind of like samurai-esque alien-looking thing, and it's such a cool look. So I think I gave Brian a link to watch Ultraman for free so we could, you know, give some input here, but he didn't do that. Unfortunately,
I have been busy. I just moved, but I did say that you should talk about that on the Sorta news, because we just found out that all the
that all the Ultraman series that Mill Creek has released on Blu-ray so far, they're apparently all available on Tubi, which I was not aware of until yesterday, because I think you asked if Ultraman was available anywhere, and I'm like, oh, you know what, let me look. Sure enough, there they are, all on Tubi.
Yeah. So now I have no excuse to watch it.
You had no excuse to not watch Ultra Q either, because you had my copy.
I have no excuse to not watch Ultraman, and neither does the audience.
Exactly. But I mean, my guess is that most of the audience has probably watched Ultraman at this point.
True. Well, your friends don't have an excuse.
Exactly.
Go hound them about it.
But yeah, that's Ultraman.
All right. So we're going on to my second pick.
Your second pick.
All right. So my second pick
is Pacific Rim Uprising.
Nope, it's another relatively recent movie. It's Pacific Rim, not the terrible sequel. The reason I chose this is just because Guillermo del Toro literally made this movie as a homage to the genre. It's just giant mechs called Jaegers fighting giant monsters called Kaiju. They're literally just called Kaiju. That's what the race's name is. They come up from under the ocean. They fight. It's really cool. It has some of the best like spectacle in the whole genre. I think you and I, Dave, have talked about this extensively, that the feeling of weight is like unparalleled in this movie. They just got it so right. Like, I think the way stuff hits the water, and it's just a very well made movie that's just very easy to watch. The world building is also really cool. We got into this more with when we covered Pacific Rim: The Black, that like the world of these movies and the show are really cool. It's really interesting, even though a lot of the characters aren't necessarily the most interesting.
Yeah,
but you have some that are really good, like Mako and Stacker. But yeah, and some of the characters from the show too are pretty interesting. But
we're not talking about the show. We're talking about the movie.
We're not talking about the show. The show is accessible, but I'd say definitely watch the first movie before you watch the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. But did you have anything to say about it, Dave?
Yeah, but the whole thing with the weight, like I think Pacific Rim was the first time I had seen anything kaiju related, and I actually realized, oh, these things are fucking massive. Like,
Yeah.
it was that opening scene in Alaska where Knifehead comes out of the water. Like, that's the first time I actually felt like this was, this impossibly large creature. Because I mean, that's largely due to like how the camera is angled, because it is like looking up at him as he's breaching the water. And
But you also have like the water effects coming down off of his like flat face, and you're just like, oh, that's a lot of water.
Yeah. I mean, it's in large part due to the fact that Guillermo del Toro is just such a fucking master of monster movies in general.
Yeah, he's a master of his craft. I mean, any world building and like new universes, he's really good at just making stuff.
No, absolutely, yeah,
going with it. And a lot of the practical effects in this movie, I mean, he is like, that's his like trademark, is he makes practical effects for everything, and they look super good. And some of the practical, like all of them, but some of them are just super good and like awesome. Like they have the practical effect of the baby. What's the
Otachi?
Otachi. Like the baby Otachi. That's all practical, and it's pretty big. It's the little thing that eats Hannibal Chow.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing is practical, and I love it. I think that he did a great job with just establishing size and weight in this movie with practicals, and also the CG effects.
I mean, some of the best, a big part of the practical effects that they do is that the control center for the Jaegers, like all that machinery, that's mostly all real. Like they're actually like struggling with stepping in those enormous cockpits, and it's really, really cool. And I know I saw one, I think it was like a special feature on the Blu-ray, like when we're learning about Mako's past, when I think it was Tokyo, where it was attacked by Onibaba. When it's trying to reach for her in the alley, like the dumpster being crushed, that's practical effects. The stomping in the water, that's all practical effects. It's incredible, like, because you see some of that stuff and you think, oh, that's just all CGI. It's like, no, it's actually not. It's really, really well done practical.
At this point, Guillermo del Toro has made a lot of really awesome movies, and when he got to Pacific Rim, he just let loose with just everything, and it's really good. And I think that when Pacific Rim came out in 2013, that was one of the movies that kind of set off the trend of big kaiju Western releases.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
With like big budgets, and personally, I think it's the best one. Personally, I just think that because Pacific Rim is just a new thing, it was a new thing. I still am incredibly attached to this movie, even though I'm willing to admit it's not perfect. It's definitely
it's got some rough edges.
Sequel. It's definitely got some rough edges. The character work is not the best. But you do have some solid characters in this that you can attach to.
Even if the characters aren't that great, they're all very memorable because they are.
Yeah,
they can be kind of caricature-y at times.
Yeah.
Like what's his name? Not Herc, but his son.
Oh yeah,
Chuck Hansen.
Chuck.
Yeah, he's very, very stereotypically Australian. But I think he is Australian in real life.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. No, his character is just asshole.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Asshole with daddy issues.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's great. Like they again, some really not great characters, but definitely fun and memorable.
Yeah. So if you're a movie buff, this is gonna have some issues that stand out to you, but for someone who wants to immerse themselves in the genre, I think this is a great place to start, because it is made with a love towards these movies, and it's pretty accessible. Like it's not wildly different from everything else. It's got really solid world building, and honestly, I think this is a great movie to start with now, because I think we're going to get more from this series, and I think it's only going to get better. I think that everyone hated Pacific Rim Uprising, and I think that they probably learned from that.
Mm-hmm.
So even if they carry on with the show, which I think is really good, I think that having a foot in this universe is going to be good going forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that all of the other releases, like the comics, were also pretty well received as well. So, so you know, that's my second pick. I adore Pacific Rim. So
as do I.
Definitely go watch it. Don't bother with the sequel. The sequel's bad.
We're gonna have to do an episode on the sequel at some point, Brian.
We are gonna have to do an episode on the sequel, and it will be our first drunk review.
Well, we're gonna get drunk and do the podcast like that.
No, we're gonna get drunk. We're gonna watch the movie, and we're gonna take drunk notes, and then try to decipher them after.
I like that idea. That's a good idea.
All right, let's do it.
All right. For my third and final pick, again, trying to go across different franchises here, I went with Gamera versus Gyaos. Some people would probably say, oh, the Gamera trilogy, which is admittedly a very, very, very good pick, because I am of the opinion that the Heisei Gamera trilogy is like peak kaiju media. But, you know, I don't want to show people the best of the genre and then just have to be disappointed with everything else they see, you know?
Yeah, I remember watching some of the bad ones with you. Oh boy.
Yeah. I wouldn't. I mean, I guess I'm trying to think of other like examples to use with that, but like, you know, I tried to go Star Wars, but like, I mean, that's if you were to show the original trilogy, that's like how you're supposed to start off and then watch the prequels. So I don't know. It's
yeah. Most of Star Wars is bad.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not really a great example. But
yeah,
you know what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't want to get people's expectations up too high and then show them something else.
You don't want to show them the best of a series, because then the rest of it is just going to be lesser.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to show them the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why I picked something like Godzilla against Mechagodzilla instead of something like Godzilla versus Biollante or Godzilla Mothra King Ghidorah, you know? But for Gamera versus Gyaos, I think that film, to me, is like the last good Gamera film until Guardian of the Universe, which is the start of the Heisei series. But it kind of perfectly rides the line between kind of the serious tone that they were going for with Gamera the Giant Monster and Gamera versus Baragon, compared to the next movie where it just devolves into absolute goofiness with Gamera versus Virus. And I'm going to attempt to remember the quote-unquote fan theory that technically, and that's in big quotation marks, technically I think it's Showtime series, True Blood, takes place in the Gamera universe.
What? What?
Okay, I would have to message Jared about this to get the exact details about it. But
well, we'll do a next episode. We'll do a follow up.
We'll do a fan theory episode.
That
could be fun.
Well,
but I'm going to attempt to try to remember how it goes. So the way that they try to, you know, lure and capture Gyaos in Gamera versus Gyaos is that they make a synthetic blood, because Gyaos is very much based on a vampire bat. And a big thing in the True Blood universe is that there was a synthetic blood developed in the 1960s to, you know, sate vampires.
Oh my god.
So if you really want to stretch it, you could say True Blood takes place in the Gamera universe. And I don't give a shit about True Blood. I've never watched it. I have no intent on doing so. But just the fact that I can say it takes place in the Gamera universe makes me happy.
That just gives it just reminds me that of how the Transformers universe
is in the Friday the 13th universe. Yeah. I feel like
Wow.
I was talking about that to someone recently. I can't remember who or even why.
But my favorite thing is that that's not a fan theory.
It's not. It's
actual
confirmed.
It's confirmed canon.
Yeah. For anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, the bully in the first Michael Bay Transformers movie who gives Sam Witwicky a hard time, also
Trent.
shows up in what?
His name is Trent.
Trent. That's a bully name if ever I heard
That's
one.
a bully name. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, he shows up in the 2009 Friday the 13th remake. Same name, same actor, and they're both under Michael Bay's production company.
So it's the same universe, and he gets murdered horribly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyways, back to Gamera. Aside from that fun little fan theory, I mean, I think it's definitely some of the best tokusatsu work in the Showa Gamera series. Gallus is, I mean, there's a reason Gallus has kind of become the King Ghidorah for Gamera, because it's such a striking, interesting looking design, and the fact that I didn't even know about this until I rewatched it last year when the Arrow set came out. Gallus's color kind of changes with his mood. Like when it's during the night, he has red highlights, and then when the day comes and because he's kind of a vampire bat kind of thing, he starts turning blue because he's not having a good time. And I just think that's a really cool added touch of personality for a film, for a kaiju film in the 60s, where personality wasn't always the most important thing to establish for the giant monsters, But
reminds me of oh shit, what was I gonna say? Reminds me of the Feeling Blue character that you made in Bloodborne.
Oh my god, I
totally
forgot
off
about
topic.
That. I totally forgot about that.
Totally off topic. When you said that he turns blue because he's not having a good time.
Yeah.
A long time ago, Dave played Bloodborne
Yep.
on my PlayStation. He made a character called Feeling Blue, and he
I
was
did.
a monstrosity that is the color blue.
Yeah.
That was really off topic.
It was.
Oh my gosh! It just hit the off the charts on the off topic.
Jesus
meter.
Christ.
Okay.
But another thing that I really like about Gamera vs. Gallus is that it does, like I said, it kind of rides the line between the goofy and the serious. The goofy because there's the thing with the synthetic blood and then once Gallus comes up, they start spinning around the vat of synthetic blood, and because Gallus is still drinking it, he's just spinning around trying to get his bearings, and it's really goofy. But at the same time, the film opens with a plane flying over a volcano, and Gauss, his main ability is this supersonic ray, which can cut anything in half. So as they're flying over the volcano, Gauss shoots upwards, and the plane is sliced in two, and there's all these people on the plane. It's kind of horrifying to think about.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
They fall into the volcano?
I don't think they fall into but I mean, they fall right out of the sky and presumably all perish in a fiery death. So, I mean,
That's awful. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Jesus.
It's a good movie. It's a real good movie.
My Gamera movies are coming in the mail, so I'll be watching them.
You got to watch all of them, because I don't think I don't think you've seen any of the other films other than the first and Baragon for the Showa stuff.
Mm-mm.
So.
Anyways, are you done with your third pick? Or
I think so. I think I'm done with Gamera versus Gauss.
Okay. All right.
It's a good movie.
Right. It is a good movie. I'm assuming. Because I haven't seen it yet. Actually, no, I think I have, actually. I think you and I did watch it a while ago.
I know we watched Giant Monster and Gamera vs. Baragon, but I don't think we got to Gauss.
Okay. All right, anyways, let me move on to my third pick, which I actually did not write down because I had no idea what I was going to talk about. I'm going to make this relatively quickly because we actually did an episode on this movie. My third pick, another relatively recent movie. Colossal. So we did an episode on this movie.
We did.
Basically where we gushed over it for 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that this is another really good introduction into the genre. And I would say that because it is a mesh of genres. So it's a great way for someone who likes dramas or I guess maybe even thrillers or something like that, to kind of get into the kaiju genre, because Colossal has a bunch of different, it's more of a character study, sure, but it's got really strong characters, which is always a plus, and it's one of the biggest things when I recommend movies. But I think that if you're looking to get into it, this is a great stepping stone movie, because it's got stuff that someone may already like, and they're just like, all right, well, let's introduce a big monster. And then if they like that aspect, then that is something that you could be like, oh, well, if you like that big monster, I have other movies with big monsters too that also have great characters.
Yeah.
And then you can just kind of go on from there. So, aside from Colossal being an absolutely incredible movie that I think everyone should watch regardless, because it is a very good story, and I have a pretty deep connection to it because it's got some themes that I really identify with, and I think a lot of people would really identify with. But I actually have had firsthand experience introducing this movie to someone who is not associated with the genre. I watched this movie with my girlfriend, who does not like kaiju anything, or at least not to her knowledge.
Why are you dating her then, Brian?
She really liked this movie, and I thought to myself, this may be a good movie to introduce to people who are not familiar with the genre. Because she would ask me questions about stuff, and I'd be able to answer it because I know about this stuff. So yeah, just... that's my third pick. I don't really have too much to talk about with it.
Again, we have a whole episode on it, so...
Yeah, we did have we recorded a whole episode on it. It's there. You should go watch it in season 1. But I definitely go watch the movie first, because that episode does go into spoilers.
Yes. Hard in the spoilers, like we do on this podcast.
Hard spoilers. Just quick thing about it, it's not a conventional kaiju movie. So any of you who are watching it now, who are listening to us now, who do like the kaiju genre, it's not, it's not like a Godzilla movie. It's very different. It follows mainly characters. So if characters are not what you're looking for, then this may not be for you.
No one watches kaiju movies for the humans.
But if you do love really well done characters and character studies, and a bit of drama, and especially if you've had trauma in your life, go watch this movie. It's really good, and it ends really well, and it's got a pretty uplifting ending despite someone being murdered. So yeah,
but he deserved it though.
He did deserve it. He was a bad person.
I like how you said we're not going to go into spoilers.
Yeah, well,
we just spoiled the ending, kind of.
It could be anyone,
I suppose, yeah. But if you start watching the movie, you're gonna know who it is pretty quickly, I feel.
Maybe.
But
honestly, it's more about the journey.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah. So that's my third pick. Don't really have much to say about it, but yeah, go watch it.
Yeah,
and listen to our podcast, because we need more listeners.
Yeah.
Donate to our Patreon.
Donate to our $50 Patreon.
Our $50 tier, the one and only tier,
where you get the sketch for the unfinished poster thing.
Yeah,
that's it, and nothing else.
Yes. Yep.
And maybe I'll give. Well, some people listen to it on the MMTV SoundCloud, but I don't post the SoundCloud link. I post the Spotify link, and that goes up later than the SoundCloud. But,
oh my gosh!
So I'll give you the SoundCloud link if you donate to Patreon. So you'll get it maybe a day or two early. But then I also forgot to upload the Evangelion Rebuild episode to SoundCloud until yesterday.
Oh my god!
So it's been up on Spotify for 2-3 weeks now, but I just didn't get around to putting it on the SoundCloud until 2 days ago. So
Spotify exclusivity confirmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
All right. Well, that's it for our picks here.
Yeah. I think we got
So,
some good
yeah.
picks here. I would.
We did. And of
Yeah.
course, these are, even though we are kaiju experts, everyone, I recommend everyone think about what they would show to
Yeah.
newcomers. I think it's a very interesting thing to think about because everyone has their own idea. Either they want to work from the middle like us and show them the standard movies in a series, or you want to show them the best and work your way down.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Now, Brian, do you think are there any honorable mentions that you want to bring up?
I mean, an honorable mention for me is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla.
I agree.
That's just because that is my favorite movie ever.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And also because I am a sucker for Mechagodzilla. The only reason I didn't pick it is because I think it's one of the best in the series. So I would want to show someone after we've kind of watched a couple. But that's personally my opinion. Like, I think Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla and Terror of Mechagodzilla, they're both incredible movies in the series, and I would rather show someone those after they have decided that they like Godzilla.
I agree.
So yeah, that's my opinion. It's kind of, I wanted to talk about it and say that as one of my picks, but I just couldn't do it because it's just like, that's like my favorite movie.
Yeah. I know because when we were on the Discord called Making This Doc, you brought that up, and I was like, oh well, we should be coming after this from like an objective standpoint. Do you think that's like objectively a good thing to show people for the first time? Which you could make the argument for it, but personally, I wouldn't put it as an entry point for the franchise.
And also because that movie's gory.
Kind of, a little bit, yeah. There's some blood in the final battle.
Got a lot of blood. Mechagodzilla fucks up Anguirus real bad.
Yep.
So it may be a little bit hard to watch for some of the more squeamish people. But yeah. That's my honorable mention.
Well, let's see. I have a couple here. Other than Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. Aforementioned the 90s Gamera trilogy, which I already talked a little bit about, so I won't talk too much about it now. I would say probably Return of Ultraman or Ultraman Ace, which are my two favorite Ultraman series so far. I would put in more recent Ultraman stuff if I really had watched any of them other than Ultraman Orb and Ultraman Z, so I'm not going to do that. But I do like Ultraman Orb, so sure, I guess. But I would say probably, again, like I say, I don't really want to, show people the best one, but also Mothra versus Godzilla is one of the best and is also a great starting point because you're also introduced to the more almost fantasy element of tokusatsu,
Yeah.
And also Mothra is like probably the second biggest character next to Godzilla.
Mothra's one of the most identifiable.
Yeah, exactly.
So, she's right up there with Godzilla himself, and Anguirus, Rodan, Ghidorah. They're all the biggest ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, those are my my honorable mentions.
All right. Well, want to move on to our last final segment? Anything new we're checking out?
Yeah. So I this just popped in my head, Brian. Did I ever tell you that this is that the name of this segment is an acronym?
Is it?
Yeah. So so it's called What Cool New Kaiju Thing Are You Checking Out Right Now, right?
Uh-huh.
So I specifically when I wrote up the pitch for this podcast, I wanted to make it a really, really overly complicated acronym. So that's a long name, right?
Uh-huh.
But you can abbreviate it to Wink Tacorn.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know, because I thought it would be funny.
Oh my god.
Or what new cool, not what cool new, but you get the point. You get the gist of it.
What new cool kaiju thing are you checking out?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So,
Wow.
what
Fun
new cool
fact.
kaiju thing are you checking out right now, Brian?
Well, we mentioned this, but I'm going to be watching the Ultraman series
Hopefully.
on Tubi. So, gonna be. I'm having my Blu-rays of all my kaiju stuff being sent to me by my wonderful mother from home. So I'll be
Mhm.
getting those back. So I think I'm probably going to be watching some of the Gamera movies I have not seen. But that's about it. I mean, having moved, I am a little bit busy. So
But you
can't
also
really
kept
do-
complaining that you were bored, so
I have been complaining that
hence why we're doing this podcast now, because you were bored.
This is true. This is true. So yeah, I mean that's what I'll be checking out.
All right.
What about you, Dave?
Well, I'll put this at the very start. It's not something necessarily that I've been checking out. It was something I was working on.
Ah,
It took me like a day to do, not even. But I sent it to you on Snapchat, so you might know what I'm talking about.
uh-huh.
I made a Clone Hero chart for some Godzilla music.
Oh my god.
So for anyone who doesn't know, Clone Hero is a free fan game for Guitar Hero, where you can it supports all instruments, and supports any custom song that you can possibly think of, and it's super super easy to make custom songs. And so I was like, well, let's find out how easy it is. So I made a Clone Hero chart for Godzilla vs. Anguirus by Masaru Sato from the Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla score. And it's the first thing I've ever charted, so it's not great, but it's, for what it is, I think it's pretty solid. I had someone play it, and they had a good time playing it. So yeah,
Incredible.
I might do more. I might take it upon myself to chart every piece of Godzilla music for Clone Hero. We'll see.
Do it.
If anyone wants me to do it, comment on Facebook or add us on Twitter.
You to do it.
You want me to do it, Brian?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you even have a Guitar Hero controller with which to play it on?
I could probably buy one.
I keep looking at savers, and because apparently stuff like savers and Salvation Army and shit like that are good places to find guitars, because everyone sells
I think
them.
I actually have a Guitar Hero guitar in my dad's basement somewhere.
Really
I think he saved all of them.
nice. Mine got tossed out, unfortunately.
That sucks.
It's tragic. Yeah, I really want to play Clone Hero. I want to play my own song that I made, but I can't because I don't have a controller for it.
Do you think I can bind it to a keyboard?
I mean, you could. It'd probably be terrible and
Maybe.
weird
I
to
don't
play.
know. I could probably make it work.
Maybe. I don't think it'd be as fun as playing on the guitar controller, though.
Probably not. Anyways, we
that's-
should probably wrap this up.
Well, I got one more thing I want to talk about.
Oh, okay.
Something I've actually been checking out and not working on. Was it last week? I think so. I blasted through the entire campaign of Maneater,
Oh, hell yeah.
which is not really a kaiju thing until the DLC just
adjacent.
came out, but I haven't played the DLC yet. But
Kaiju adjacent.
yeah, and there's a Pacific Rim reference in it, so
Nice.
Yeah, so Maneater is, as the developers refer to as, a shark PG, a shark playing game.
I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of repetitive because the missions are just to eat fish, eat humans, eat hostile fish, eat other
Heard it's
humans.
fun, though.
It is very fun. It's it's very repetitive but very fun, because I really liked the old Jaws Unleashed game on the original Xbox, and this kind of fills that void. And you have a bunch of abilities, like you can launch balls of poison at enemies, or you can you can produce an electric field when you dodge, which stuns enemies, and it's really fucking cool.
Legendary game reviewer Skill Up said that Maneater is game of the generation.
I'll accept that.
So I gotta play it sooner or later.
Yeah, it was free on PS5 a while ago.
It's available on Xbox Game Pass.
Well, there you go.
Also, disclaimer: Maneater is a Tripwire game, and
It
anyone who
is.
keeps up with the news.
Unfortunately.
The Tripwire CEO is a bit of an asshole.
Yep.
But the Maneater developers came out in front of it and said that they do not agree with their CEO.
Yeah.
So
good on them.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I had to say on Maneater. It's a good game. I would play. You should play it if you have the chance.
Yeah. DLC also dropped on Xbox Game Pass. So
Yeah, I haven't played the DLC yet, but I really want to. And apparently, they already are teasing the next DLC because the DLC is all. The current DLC is all about like, fucking conspiracy theories, and it actually is kaiju related because there's a boss called the Atomic Leviathan in the DLC.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah, I wonder what that's in reference to.
I love it.
But yeah, apparently the next DLC is going to be like cyberpunk related.
My God.
So I hope you're ready for cyborg sharks.
I am ready.
So am I. All right, but I think that'll about wrap it up for today. Unless you want to add
possibly one of our longest episodes.
Oh no, the Rebuild of Evangelion is definitely much longer because this is gonna have to, because with all the technical difficulties we had, I'm definitely gonna have to edit this down.
Okay, fair enough.
But,
all right, well,
unless you have anything to add, Brian.
Nope, nothing to add.
All right,
good to be back.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's been too long.
It was not as long as I thought it was gonna.
No, it really wasn't.
Yeah, only like one week over.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, and that'll do it. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
And soon to be Instagram. I'm still working on that.
Have you messaged that other account yet, Brian?
No.
You got to do it.
I know I do. Okay.
But yeah, follow us on Twitter and Facebook at Talking Toku, where I don't post nearly enough as I should because I'm not good with managing social media stuff. But yeah, that's all I got to say about it.
All right.
I am your host, David Scrivani.
I am your other host, Brian Kershaw.
And we'll see you guys next time, where I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out.
Probably something very entertaining.
Probably. Hopefully. Maybe we'll do something really, really boring.
Yeah, just for shits and gigs.
Yeah. The shortest episode, because we'll get we ourselves will get too bored to keep talking about it. All right. We'll see you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye.